Hey everybody, Eric Grenier here with Philippe J. Fournier for this special edition episode of the Numbers Podcast. We're recording this at 12:16 a.m. on Tuesday morning now.
That's right.
So we just finally saw the results of the by-elections come in. We got the final results, and I should probably have already pulled these up in front of me so that I could talk about them.
Yeah.
This is live podcasting. But Philippe, how are you doing? First of all, any early reactions to these by-elections?
Okay, so there's many things to say. I don't want to say them all at once, but if I can, my first observation tonight, naturally, is Liberal sweep. That's the most important thing. The Liberals keep Terrebonne. It was close all night. In the end, they won by 1.5 points. We had to wait until the last box to really call it because there were some boxes that had wild swings, so we want to be careful here. We had a lot of fun on the live stream with our viewers, but yeah, the Liberals held their vote, even grew it in Scarborough Southwest, and really, I mean, the polarized vote in Terrebonne was something. We'll get to that, but Liberal sweep. What other grade than A+ can you give them? They had 2 seats that were pretty safe for them. They held their vote and they grew their vote in Terrebonne, and now they can go tomorrow and say we have a majority, we have floor crossers, we have high approval numbers in the polls. Like, what do you want more from us? We have the legitimacy to go on. That would be my first comment. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, it's hard to find any faults with the Liberal results here. As you mentioned, did well in Scarborough Southwest. They held their vote in University of Rosedale.
Yep.
And yes, they won in Terrebonne, but it wasn't like it was this squeaked by victory with, they improved their vote to a level that they haven't seen in this riding in decades against a strong challenge from the Bloc. So pretty much a strong result for them across the board. We'll go through some of each of the other parties. So why don't I just quickly go over the numbers? So these counts have been completed. These are the preliminary counts, of course. But in Scarborough Southwest, Dolly Begum of the Liberals got 70% of the vote. Yeah. So this was an increase of nearly 8 or 9 points for her compared to Bill Blair's performance in 2025. The Conservatives were down from 31% to 18%. So that's a drop of about 13 points. And the NDP was up from 5% to 6%. So not much change there.
Yeah.
In University of Rosedale, as I'm speaking, there's still 3 boxes to count. It's been pretty steady all night, so unlikely to change, but you can check these numbers in the morning. But Daniel Martin of the Liberals got 64%. That matches what Chrystia Freeland had in the last election exactly. The NDP was up pretty strongly from 10% to 19%, finishing second in the riding. The Conservatives fell from second to third. They had 23.5% last time. They're now down to 12.5%, so a drop of 11 points. And then in Terrebonne, and these are really remarkable numbers, the Liberals jumped nearly 10 points from 39% to 48%.
Yeah.
48%. The Bloc went from 39% to 47%.
That's right.
So they were also up about 8 points. And you see this just complete polarization of the vote. The Conservatives dropped from 18 to 3.
That's incredible.
3% in Terrebonne. The NDP was down from 2.6 to 0.5. So some pretty big shifts from the last election in some of these ridings. A lot of it based on what was happening in these ridings. But yeah, and as the responsible people that we are, we waited until 210 of 211 boxes were counted before we were comfortable counting or calling Terrebonne because Tatiana Auguste, she led for most of the count, but early in the night, it was Nathalie Sinclair-Desgagnés who had the lead.
Yes, it's true. And at some point also, I think that Tatiana Auguste at some point led by 2.5 points. And we were getting close. And the next 5 boxes that had that under 1 point. So wild swings. So then you want to be careful. We don't know where these boxes are from, if they're big, if they're small. Okay, winner of the night, Liberals. Bloc Québécois, I do not give them a fail grade. They increased their vote. They ran into a wall. The Liberals did really well, Madame Auguste. They had just under 47, so 46 and change percentage of vote. But it's a loss. And we said many times over the past 11 months, Eric, that the Liberals were not supposed to win Terrebonne. It was kind of an accident. It was Trump and the tariffs and the uncertainty. Well, okay, 11 months later, they win it again more decisively, even though it's still close. So for the Bloc, I would give them a C. It's not a fail, but you had one thing to do when you failed to do it. Yeah, that's what I would say about the Bloc.
Well, just before we move on from the Bloc,
yeah,
I think I'd give them a bit better. I think I might even give them like a B-. It's hard to blame them for losing this when they got 47% of the vote in a riding. And it's a two-party race.
It's 92% Francophone suburban Montreal. You're not supposed to lose this. Okay, maybe C+. I'll settle for C. Yeah, I said it's not a fail. But if the Bloc can't win Terrebonne, they're in trouble going forward, Eric.
Yeah, but in the next election...
Yeah.
We said this on the live stream. The Conservatives aren't going to get 3% of the vote.
Well, that's another thing, huh?
But I really also don't think that the Liberals are going to get 48 in this riding.
Yeah.
Because 48, like based on where the polls are in Quebec, 48 means that this riding is now more liberal than the province as a whole, which was not the case in the last election.
Nope, it wasn't. No.
So that seems unsustainable, but it does kind of show, in a pretty significant way, that voters in this riding were very comfortable with giving Mark Carney the majority because turnout was quite good. It was just over 51 or just about 51%. The Liberals got almost as many votes as they did last time. The two parties had gotten about 23,000 votes in 2025. In this by-election, 22,400 and a few for the Liberals and 21,700 for the Bloc. So yeah, it is a strong result, but it's hard to fault the Bloc when they have this kind of, it's almost like, I guess you could say you kind of grade on the same kind of curve with Poilievre in the last election.
Yeah.
Best result for the party since the 80s, still a failure
not enough.
In a way, right?
Yeah,
but
not enough.
Yeah, we grade on a curve for that.
What about the Conservatives? I'll let you go first. I have my thoughts. I think the numbers speak for themselves, but what do you give? What grade would you give the Conservatives?
F.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by the results.
Yeah, me too.
I did not think that the Conservatives would do well. I thought that they would drop. I didn't think that they would drop this much. No. And it's not just about the polarized race in Terrebonne. So they were down 15 points in Terrebonne to 3%. Now 3% is like, I'm not even sure if they've ever gotten that low. Like, what was the result in 2004 in this riding or this area? It was probably
hang on
more
though. 3% is about what they had in their worst riding, Rosemont la Petite Patrie, or maybe it was Laurier Sainte Marie, like downtown Le Plateau Mont Royal. How do you get 3%? How do you go from 18 to 3?
Yeah, down. How much were they down in Scarborough Southwest? They were down
12 points. 11.
12 points. They were down. Again, about 11 points in University Rosedale. So you see that the same pattern is happening in the two Toronto ridings.
Yeah.
Now, yes, it's Toronto. They're not supposed to win these ridings. But in elections, like you look at Scarborough Southwest. Scarborough Southwest is a diverse riding. It's an inner suburb of Toronto, but it is still the kind of riding that you'd expect the Conservatives to do okay in, not maybe win. But, Andrew Scheer got 21%, 21%. Aaron O'Toole got 21%. And Pierre Poilievre now got 18. Like, he's doing worse than those elections. So those were bad elections for the Conservatives.
Yeah.
The collapse in University Rosedale, again, is not good. Just put him down 5 points. I'd be like, yeah, that figures. Yeah. But put him down 12 to 11 in all of these? No.
So double-digit, fall in every riding. That's not acceptable. And as we said during the stream, like the Conservatives usually show up even in ridings they're going to lose. Usually they show up even if they, again, you don't expect everybody to show up, but this is a bad fall. And we don't want to overstate this. Maybe it's a blip, but historically Conservatives show up for by-elections, whereas New Democrats usually don't. They didn't show up this time, or at least they flipped. In Terrebonne, I strongly doubt that those 11,000 Conservatives changed their votes. Maybe they stayed home, but you were not. Monsieur Poiliev, guess, could not convince them to at least just show up and have your machine revving for future by-elections, right? For practice. So, I mean, F, maybe I would, maybe you give it D, because I guess F, maybe there's something worse that would have happened, but it's a bad night for the Conservatives with these results.
I guess down, F is rough in 3 ridings where they're not expected to win.
Yeah.
But like, what points would you give them? That they existed, like that they didn't get 0? Like, I'm not sure what you would give them points for. These were bad results around the board. They're among the worst results the party's had in these ridings. So that's not good. But like, I guess the big question is, what's this going to mean for Pierre Poilievre? Excuse me. Will there be more floor crossers? Could it kind of snowball? Like, he's had a rough week, and this is just an extra. I mean, Marilyn Gladu last week, and now these by-elections, poor results, maybe more floor crossers. Like, this guy can't catch a break.
Like, seriously though, the stories about the rumors of more floor crossers coming, we've seen those many times in the last few months, and guess what? They kind of happened. It took a while, but they happened.
It's like slow release.
And you would think that now, okay, you are not the floor crosser that transforms this government from minority into majority. They have their majority now. They even have a little cushion majority. If you're looking at your leader, Pierre Poilievre, you're disappointed and you feel like maybe this is not the best I can do for my career and for my constituents, you have an invitation from the Liberals. Maybe you're slightly right of center or centrist MP. Perhaps you're tempted right now when you look at these results. We don't want to prêter des intentions. We don't want to put thoughts into their heads. Maybe they're not tempted to do that, but we kind of chuckled at these reports of rumors of floor crossers, but they did happen. So
for the NDP, Avi Lewis became leader after these by-elections were called, so he had limited kind of input into candidates and stuff. But would you grade him higher than the Bloc on this?
Okay, so the NDP went from 3% to 0.5% in Terrebonne. We know, didn't show up. Okay. The NDP, I think early in the night, I said it would be a decent night. It would be a good night if they can pull a second place finish in University Rosedale. Except for the last election in April 25, they usually finish second. And they did tonight. Far behind the Liberals, of course. But they had almost 19% of the vote, although the vote is not entirely done here. So, but let's say around 19% of the vote in University Rosedale. This is decent. It's not great, but it's good. You are over the Conservatives. And you held your vote in Scarborough and collapsed. So I would say, I don't know, maybe a C+ or B- for the NDP. A good grade in University Rosedale, a poor grade elsewhere. I mean, you had a former NDP running in Scarborough. Maybe the animosity between those camps would push you to go to vote, but no, it didn't happen.
Yeah, that was one of the things, right? Like, it doesn't suggest that NDP voters were upset with the floor crossing, right? Which, not the floor crossing, but the changing of allegiances.
Yes.
So Scarborough Southwest kind of puts a damper on the NDP's night. But in University Rosedale, 19% is still below what the party did in 2021 or 2019, but only a couple points. The thing is that this score of 19% is what I would have expected the NDP to get in a by-election in 2021, 2023 or whatever, in a riding like this, right? So this tells to me that this is a sign that the NDP is not entirely kind of doomed, that they're not stuck at 6%. Like, this is the kind of result that you could expect them to get in a world where they're winning 15 seats, let's say.
That's fair.
So I think that is a positive sign for the NDP, because out of all of these 3 ridings, this is the one, University Rosedale, where they should have done the best, and they've broken the pattern that they lost vote in by-elections, which is something they've done in virtually every single case since 2015. So I think that is a decent sign for them. But no fireworks for Avi Lewis with these results, but it doesn't have to go out tomorrow, I don't think, and kind of defend these results, So I think that's a it's an okay result for them. And as we said, an A plus for the Liberals. It's hard to knock them on anything here. They got more of the vote share than they did last time, and they won all three. Can't ask for much more.
Before we close here, I want to ask you a question, but I need to check something first. But I think it would be a good way to close.
Well, before we do that, I have a couple extra questions.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm listening.
One, does this say anything about the polls?
Okay, that's a good question, actually.
We didn't see any riding level polls.
No, but the Liberals are up. The Liberals have increased their margins against the Conservatives in Ontario in the polls. And that's exactly what we saw tonight.
Yeah.
So, confirmation here maybe, a little bit. We don't want to overstate. And the polls are saying the Liberals are doing very well in Quebec, mid-40s. Now, they're not doing 48% in Terrebonne well.
No.
Because how many seats would that be if we had to adjust, right? So that would be like 65 seats for the Liberals. But so it kind of tells us that at least for the Liberals, Ontario and Quebec, this is what we were forecasting.
You really need a by-election in Edmonton, or Calgary. And the NDP too, right? We've seen some polls that have the NDP doing better in the last election. You wonder if it's, a parked vote or just kind of an intermediate thing. The fact that on average in Ontario they're going to be up in these two by-elections. They're only up a point in Scarborough Southwest, but they're still up. It does kind of corroborate a little bit that maybe the NDP isn't still at rock bottom in Ontario. So while there's nothing in the polls that would suggest that the Conservatives should be at 3% in Terrebonne, I think we can excuse that based on the fact that the race seemed to have been polarized between these two. Turnout was higher. Voters seemed to be completely aware of the fact that this was a close riding, based on the fact that it was last time and that it was a close race this time. So I think we can exclude some of those factors when comparing it to the polls. But nevertheless, again, just for the Conservatives to go to 3%, this is a national party. This is a major party. You just got over 40% in the last election. They got 3% in a riding like this.
Battling the margin of error. Yeah, I know. So
that was, to me, that's the biggest surprise of the night. I know it's not like it's the least impactful result, but it's to me the biggest surprise. I would never have called that.
It's got a sting. Mm-hmm. Okay, Eric. Unless you have more points to bring.
My last one.
Go ahead.
Because we got this question on the live stream.
Yeah.
We expect a by-election in Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie.
Yeah.
When Alexandre Bouleris, if he does as assumed, that he resigns his seat. And we expect a by-election in Beaches, East York.
Yep.
If Nate Erskine-Smith resigns his seat to run for the Ontario Liberal leadership. Both of these, one's in Montreal, the other's in Toronto, so kind of similar. Do you draw any conclusions from these results for those by-elections?
Well, Beaches East York is a safe Liberal seat, which is not the case for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie, which has not gone Liberal since 1980. However...
Well, except for 2025 and 2026.
No, Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's very late, folks.
Yeah. That's right. It's just that I don't see... If Monsieur Bouleris of Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie decides to leave in early May, what's the fastest the Liberals can call this by-election? Ride this wave right away. I think we may have a by-election in late June in Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Why would they wait 6 months? They would go right away, and I think they would have a pretty good shot at it. The island of Montreal is covered in red, and many of those seats were won by big margins. Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie was a Alexandre Bouleris seat, and now that, if we assume that he's gone soon, Liberals would have a shot to add to this. But
I think they'd also have an excuse to do it earlier, to just say not to overlap with the Quebec election, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to avoid that for sure. That's what I would say about this. Yeah.
But Beaches East York, for the NDP, not very strong results. Scarborough Southwest. Sure, they were up a bit in University of Rosedale, but
not right now.
I wouldn't. These would not make me. If I was Avi Lewis looking at my chances, I might have that Main Street poll that came out in one hand, and I'd have these by-elections in the other, and I'd say, these by-elections make me feel like I should not run in Beaches East York.
Nope.
So that's our little look ahead for what's next. All right, what did you want to close with?
Okay, so third Monday of October 2029 is October 15th, 2029. is that the date of the next election? Because according to our fixed election date law, that's when it would be held. We have a majority now. What do you think? Over, under? If I say October 14th, before 1 day before that date, will you take the under or the over? Is this Parliament going the distance now? Forced predictions, which we can't be held up to.
No.
And I agree. We'll talk about that further in the next episode. So,
all right. So yeah, just a little quick take reaction. It's now still early in the morning. So thanks for all the people who tuned into the live stream.
Absolutely,
it was actually a lot of fun. And we will be back with a normal episode of the podcast on Thursday. So until that, Philippe, I hope you'll join me. Well, actually, I hope you won't join me, but I hope you go to bed.
We're going to bed. Merci beaucoup, Eric. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde. Have a great night and talk to you on Thursday for the episode.